Good morning. I am Hiro Naito. I came back from Japan about a week ago. The world's most well-known show, ICAST, starts from today. I came here to see what's new and what's hot. I came here about 1 hour before show opens to take pictures. That is the reason why floor looks so empty. Meanwhile, I would like to introduce the lure caught my eyes. ICAST is an abbreviation of International Convention of Allied Sports Fishing Trade. Easy to say. It is a trade show, which means ICAST is not open for public. There used to be a show called AFTMA, which is American Fishing Tackle Manufacturer Association. Fly fishermen may have recognized AFTMA is used standardized fly fishing line size. Fishing trade show held by AFTMA needed to expand to include international business. Therefore, ICAST was born. The size of show area is 650,000 square feet. If the show space is 100 feet wide, it will go over 1/4 mile. The number of vendors will be vary from year to year, but normally there are around 750 vendors in the show. The audience is about 150,000 people from all over the world. There are companies looking for worldwide business. There are many buyers from all over the world trying to find the newest and hottest item to sell in their store. There are many medias to cover stories, many professional fishermen who are helping their sponsors, and fishermen trying to establish their profession in fishing industries. All of them are here to meet with the people in the fishing industry for their goals. I made 6,988 steps in little over 2 hours going around the show place. Even with this much going around, I had many hours I even didn't go. It is easy to say the place is huge. One item caught my eyes the first thing in this morning was this lure. This lure is not a new one. As many people knew, is rippling redfin. One of the strengths on this lure is that it will confuse bass from visual image. It is like an illusion. Therefore, I think chrome color is very useful. With that idea, I love this new color. It will change the color image when the angle of the view is changed slightly. When I was a little boy, I used to go after one species of beetle bug called golden bug, which the body color changes by what angle I was looking at the bug. Visual change appeals me so much. I think we will do the same to bass to create strike point. Especially green color in the center of the lure does the trick. I have caught many bass on rippling redfin over the years. I always liked chrome color, and I am very sure this new color will help me catch more bass. Chad, nice seeing you again.
Good to see you, Hiro, as well. Good to see you.
Well, I appreciate your help of teaching me or talking me about what's hot in US in past 12 months.
Of course, yes. So, you want to dive in?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so what's hot? So, we're going to start with Jason Christie
Uh-huh.
winning the Classic.
Yeah,
All
that
right?
was great.
Yes, it was great. Great for Pradco, great for our brands, but specifically, when you win a Classic, you've got so much momentum behind the bait already. It's amazing how much momentum a Classic win will build behind a brand and behind a bait. And we were fortunate enough to get that momentum behind a brand new bait that Jason designed over the last 4 to 5 years that is specifically used with pen optics or live scope. Okay, so the Yum forward-facing sonar, minnow, was designed by Jason Christie. So let's go through the story. Can we do that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, let's go
absolutely.
through the story. Okay, so about 2015, maybe 2016, Panoptics was brought to the scene in the fishing industry by Garmin. Jason was one of the first anglers to get that, Panoptics. live scope, what we call it now. And he said it changed his fishing totally. You know, Jason is known as a shallow water spinnerbait power fisherman. Well, with what he was able to do and see with Panoptics, it helped his fishing evolve into more of a finesse tactic when needed. So fast forward 3 years down the road, Jason and I are fishing at his home lake 10 killer, and he says, hey, I got this technique. I've been winning some tournaments on it here. He said, primarily right now it's a cold water technique. When I say cold water, I mean like cold, like 45 degrees and lower water temperature.
Wow.
And I said, Jason, tell me, what is it? Show me. And he was like, no, I'm not ready. I'm like, what do you mean you're not ready? He was like, it's not perfected yet. He's like, and I want to win some more tournaments. Okay, this was probably 2 years ago. And he said, he said, I'm gonna win a big tournament on this one. All right, so that stuck in my head. I'm like, okay. And as a product manager and a product designer, I love to hear those things, because trying to plan out years of product development is very, very hard. So to know 2 years ago that I have something potentially big coming in Yum makes me happy. Okay, so fast forward 2 years, probably October of 2021. Jason says, we're fishing again, testing a bait. He says, Chad, it's like, I'm ready to show you that technique. I was like, it's about time, you know? And he said, I think it's gonna play at the Classic this year, which is at Lake Hartwell, 2022. He's like, I think I can win on it. And I was like, let's go. Let's go. So we get to the lake, we're at the lake, he pulls out a couple spinning rods, and I look at it, and I look at him, and I'm like, that's it? That's your technique? And he starts laughing. Okay, he's laughing at me. He's like, just wait. I said, okay. So he pulls 2 rods out. He gives me one. He takes the other. It's got jig head and a little minnow on it. I said, okay. So he begins to talk to me about the technique. And as I'm listening, my wheels are turning. And I'm like, okay. So we began to fish. He began to talk and show me how the fish react on live scope at the time. Okay, so what he was seeing is he was seeing fish throughout the years follow his bait, whether it be a swim bait, a jerk bait, a dinger, you know, whatever that he was throwing forward-facing sonar with. And the biggest problem that he would see is he would see fish follow that bait and then, for some reason, not eat, just peel off and go, specifically with a swim bait. So he said, you know, fishing at different depths requires different baits, right? So he said, I could be fishing for a fish over here in 8 foot of water, and he said, I could throw a Smithwick Rogue over there, and I could catch that fish because you're in clear water. He said, I could pan, and then see a fish in 14 feet or 16 feet. I couldn't catch that fish with a Rogue because it wouldn't get deep enough. I had to pick up a swim bait, throw it out there, and he said sometimes when you had to change that rod, you would lose that fish because it would either be chasing bait or just be swimming, or wind would move your boat and change your view of your screen. And so he said, I needed a bait that I could control the depth with and put that bait right on top of their head. So as he was fishing a swim bait one day, he was watching these fish follow that swim bait. And as that swim bait went through the water column, as it would make its upward movement, as it gets closer to the boat, that fish would peel off, wouldn't bite, couldn't get that fish to commit. So he began messing with some baits, taking some lures, some swim baits, cutting them, cutting the tail off, prototyping, using different types of jig heads. And he developed this system, perfectly balanced and matched jig head with perfectly balanced and matched soft plastic, the Yum forward-facing sonar minnow, that would allow him to put that bait on top of that fish's head based on his live sonar, watch it fall, and then he could sit there and shake that bait. And the deal is that that bait in the water column is slowly doing this if you're working it right. And it looks like it's just got this little swimming action. But the deal is that you don't get a lot of forward movement.
Okay.
Yeah, so he can put that bait in a place right on top of that fish and tease that fish because it's not pulling away and making that fish come to it. Now, it has a slow progression forward, but it's not a real strong progression forward like a swim bait or a rogue, some of those things. So as he perfected this over time, it's not just the jig head in the minnow, although that plays a key important role in it. It's the rod, it's the reel speed, it's the line, really specific, braid with fluorocarbon, it's the knot, and it's your live sonar. So it's an entire system that he has developed for this. And if you think about it, as the reason the line is so important, he uses 15-pound braid with an 8-pound fluorocarbon leader. As you make a cast, think about the bow in your line. When your bait hits the water, you let slack go, the bow in your line goes out and then it goes down. Because that fluorocarbon is so thin, or excuse me, that braid is so thin and it floats, it goes straight down. As long as you don't have your bell closed and it's pulling slack down. So that's an important factor. So as he clicks his bell and begins to work that bait, the action comes from the line. So you have very little contact with the bait itself. You're working the line. So it's not just the bait, it's the entire system. And so I asked the question, I said, okay, so what about the guys that don't have forward-facing sonar? He was like, you can still catch them on this bait. With forward-facing sonar, when you see that fish, he said, and this was a great quote, he said, it's like flipping. It's like flipping and pitching because you can cast that bait, drop it right on their head like if you were flipping bushes. And I think that's what he likes about it so much because it's a finesse version of flipping and pitching for him because he's a power fisherman. He likes power fishing. And it absolutely catches, I mean, literally it will catch them. Like you very rarely see a fish turn down this bait.
Sounds great.
Yeah. Good.
Once again, thank you, Chad.
Thank you very much, Hiro. It's
always nice seeing you.
Always good to see you. You too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
How did you think of 2022 ICAST? I went around shore floor over 2 hours and it was huge area to show you all. So I kept going around without stopping. The most and biggest information I learned through this show was about Jason Christie's Tactical Over Bassmaster Classic winning. It was an amazing story. The new way to catch bass is not solely depending on one item, such as lure. In order to understand his new method requires understanding on tackle setup. It took him several years to come up with this approach. I was just amazed by listening to his steps, developing his method. Among the stories I heard, his 8 tournament wins among 10, with 2 remaining tournaments in second place was breathtaking. That was just amazing. He knew which fish he needed to go after with confidence. This proved his catch is not a luck or accident. His catch is a fate created by him. When I go after my fish, I would like to have strong confidence on what I do. Hope you enjoy bass fishing and see you next time.